Hi, it's that time of year again for World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. My World Mental Health Day video for last year was one of my most popular videos, so I thought I'd make another with the theme for 2024, which is making staff mental health a priority. So Worth It, the organisation that I run and have founded, is a social enterprise that specialises in the early prevention and intervention of mental health problems in children and young people. One of the most effective ways to do that is through a whole system or whole school or whole setting approach, which involves staff. So if you're looking at improving the mental well-being of young people, which is what we specialise in, you can't not improve the well-being of staff and prevent mental health problems in staff too. So I'm going to be using the terms mental health and well-being interchangeably. I think one of the confusing things about World Mental Health Day is often we think of mental health as the lack of or mental illness, and there's often a common misconception. And one of the first things that I do whenever I work in a school or organisation is to clarify definitions. What are we actually talking about when it comes to mental health? So do you mean lack of health, or do you mean presence of health, or do you mean understanding more what the mental health problems or illnesses are? So first of all, get clear on what your definitions are. When I talk about mental health, I'm talking about positive mental health. I'm talking about a move towards flourishing, because I'm a positive psychologist that specialises in prevention using applied positive psychology and coaching techniques. So, World Mental Health Day, the theme of staff wellbeing as a priority, staff mental health as a priority. So what we can often get confused with is stress and mental health problems and well-being, and like kind of use those all interchangeably and mix them all up together. So stress is not a mental health problem. Stress is a reaction to too much pressure. Within the teaching profession, there is a chronic burden of stress impacting the workforce, which has been building up for years and years and years, and has got to this acute point. I will read you some statistics in a minute, but just to be clear, stress is not a mental health problem. Stress is a reaction to too much pressure when we perceive that we don't have the resources in order to cope with the pressures and demands that we are facing in the workplace or in life in general, and that we feel a lot of negative feelings inside ourselves because we can't cope with the demands, and those feelings are uncomfortable, and they're a warning sign that we need to look at what's going on and address the stress that we're feeling. And then that can result in a lot of physical health symptoms like tummy problems, headaches, migraines, skin conditions, and then also cognitive demands like feeling worry thoughts, feeling panicked, feeling pressurized, like not being able to sleep. Like stress can have such a huge impact on your mind and body that quite often teachers and people in the education workforce are often experiencing chronic stress all the time because that feels normal to them. They don't actually think that they're stressed, they think that that's just normal. So let's have a look at some statistics of the current state of the education system in the UK, which is what I predominantly work within, but I also work in settings that support children and young people. So I'm pretty sure that most sectors that work with children and young people are under chronic stress, which is a risk factor for mental health problems. So if you want to prevent mental health problems and you want to talk about well-being and promoting staff mental health on World Mental Health Day, one way to do that is look at stress awareness and stress management. Stress awareness and stress management are two different things. First of all, we need to be aware of the stress before we can manage the stress. So because a lot of people don't really understand stress and are not really au fait with the symptoms, or like I said a minute ago, it just feels so normal to them that they don't even know the stress in the first place, that they can often let it build up and build up and build up and build up until it does start to cause common mental health problems like anxiety, depression and burnout, which is a chronic amount of stress, often for people in the supportive industries, where you just are unable to continue working because of the emotional demands of the work, because you're emotionally exhausted, you feel incompetent, and that you start to actually become disconnected from your job, and that's the symptoms that you're burning out. So let's have a look at some statistics. So from the Teacher Wellbeing Index, which is the latest figures that I've got up that were conducted in 2023 in the UK through the Education Support Foundation, who are a brilliant charity that support education professionals in the UK. 78% of all staff are stressed. 89% of school leaders are stressed, and 78% of school teachers are stressed. That's most people that work in schools are stressed. What we know from working with young people and children is that well-being is facilitated through relationships and interactions. If you want to have good well-being of your kids, if you want them to come to school, if you want them to be happy to learn and concentrate and focus and not be anxious and have positive interactions with each other and you as the teacher, you facilitate and model that through your behaviour and interaction with the children as the class teacher or as the leadership team within that school. So if you feel like chronically stressed, one of the things is that you are less able to be present and you're less able to have those quality relationships and connections that facilitate positive mental health and well-being in children. So if most people are stressed, apart from, you know, around 20% are not stressed, that's most interactions are going to not facilitate well-being. So as mental health becomes more of a priority for children and young people, we can't not look at staff mental health because they're two sides of the same coin. Yeah, so 78% of teachers are stressed, and obviously we're hoping with the new government that things are going to improve, but that's not going to happen very quickly. It takes time to make a change, and things have been so bad for so long, it's kind of built up to this toxic climate. Also with stress, it's contagious. So if a lot of people are stressed, then it kind of like has this contagious effect where other people are picking up on the energy of the other members of staff and they're starting to feel stressed too, and it's like this culture of stressful energy that everyone's kind of feeling and experiencing. Again, that's how you can balance it out and improve a culture for positive mental health, is actually to say what is causing us stress, how can we remove this, how is this having a knock-on effect on our mental health, and what can we do about it, and what can we change about it. So 55% of all staff consider their organisation's culture has a negative effect on their well-being. That's what I was talking about. It's this culture and climate of stress, which is why we have to be looking at policies, process, place and people in order to then change that. But again, it's not quick, and it's not easy, but it's doable, and it's quite complex because everything kind of connects to each other, and everything has a knock-on effect to each other, and if you change one thing, it will can like knock on to a lot of the systems and processes, and change can feel very scary, and change in itself can cause stress because we even though we're uncomfortable and it makes us feel stressed, we're used to the way things are like this around here, and we don't want to change them because this is normal for us, this is what we always do. And those kind of things can often cause resistance towards change, which when you're wanting to improve staff mental health and well-being, you have to change things, and then that can then it's like it is a complex sort of dynamic situation that you're in. 46% of all staff said their organisations do not support employees well who have poor mental health or well-being problems. So this can often create, that's like nearly half of the people that are in the survey. It can look like people presenteeism, so carrying on going to work even though you don't feel well because you're worried about what other people will think, or you don't want to let the team down, or you don't want to let the kids down, or there's some reason or another why you think that you have to be there because of obligation or guilt or your own psychological reasons, which are then contributing to your stress and the pressure that you're putting on yourself to carry on when you can't cope, or you feel that there's stigma, or you feel that people just won't understand, or anything like that. So a culture where I really don't like saying it's okay to not be okay. It's really a culture that where you are able to be fallible as a human being and ask for help, and it's like, okay, fine, take the day off. Some schools that I work with have had like mental health days where you can have 3 days a year where you can just say, I need a day off, for whatever reason, and you are allowed it, and it's like a pot of days that you can have, and you can have them whenever you want for a mental health day. Flexible working, things like that. So what the most effective way to kind of manage staff stress is the job demands resources model. So the job demands resources model is where you actually help people to identify what are the demands of work and what are the demands outside of work that are causing you to have stress, and what are the resources that you have in work and outside of work that actually balance out that stress, and help people find their own unique combination of strategies that help them get that into balance. So it's when the demands outweigh the resources is where we feel chronic stress, and it's when the demands outweigh the resources for too long is when we actually start to then develop the mental health problems associated with chronic stress and burnout. So if you want to improve staff mental health, you have to look much further upstream at what is causing the stress at source, removing the stress at source, and then helping the individuals manage and navigate their own personal resources to then be able to put in place strategies to navigate and manage the stress. Teaching is always going to be stressful. Working in educational settings, working with children and young people, it's always going to be stressful. But what we need to do is look at a primary and secondary approach to early prevention, where we're preventing and removing stress at source. So changing policies, changing processes, changing the way we do things, changing workload and marking policies and the practical things, and organisational culture and the ability to ask for help and earlier, and those kind of things are primary stress interventions, which are changing the culture to make it okay to seek help earlier for your mental health, or helping equipping and at the same time, I shouldn't say or, and at the same time equipping individuals with awareness of their own coping strategies so they can navigate and deal with the stresses of those kind of jobs, those kind of demands. So you can drill down to this in a lot of detail, and I actually have a whole program called the Staff Wellbeing Toolkit which looks at primary and secondary stressors and how to develop a whole range of different interventions and deliver a whole range of different interventions both at primary and secondary level. I think what the misconception is that you can simply just do an inset day and teach people a load of strategies and then off they go and they do them, and it's just like if you go to Weight Watchers one time and you expect to lose 2 stone. It doesn't work like that. It's like if you go to the gym and do 5 sit-ups and you're like, where's my 6-pack, what are you talking about? It's like that. We have to consciously make a choice to care for and look after our mental health in the same way as we do our sleep and our diet and our exercise. It has to become habitual, and it has to be a conscious choice to maintain your well-being. And what schools need to do, and what you could do on World Mental Health Day, is look at what are the habits for well-being that we could have, and we're asking questions rather than sort of just telling people a load of practical things that they can do or signposting them to a leaflet or something like that. Is actually saying what helps you improve your mental health on a really good day, when things are really going well on a good day. What are you doing, and how could you do that more? And that's really a coaching approach, which is what we specialise in. And then you can teach practical positive psychology tools that are evidence-based and improve well-being, but without having the right container, the right conversations, the right culture that then enables those strategies to flourish and to make it acceptable and kind of like share those tips and ideas with each other all the time, then you're going to cultivate this culture of positive mental health and well-being. Some more statistics for you. So the mental health of education staff from the Teacher Wellbeing Index is 81% have experienced symptoms of poor mental health due to their work. So what are the symptoms of poor mental health? So these can be signs of anxiety. So 45% of the staff have thought to have signs of anxiety. So feeling panicky, feeling you can't cope, feeling this feeling of impending doom and dread coming over you all the time. Which can then cause you to feel low mood and starting to feel depressed. Issues. 39% of all staff have experienced mental health issues in the past academic year. So that's 41% of school teachers and 37% of senior leaders. It's ridiculous. It just does so much. And like from the teachers that we work with, it's almost like, well, I knew what I was signed up to when I did this job. It's my own fault. I brought it on myself. I deserve it. And how damaging is that for your mental health? Like, it is a choice to have a positive mental, like, and then to the point where a lot of staff are like, I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving. And they're leaving the whole profession, which is such a shame. And this is why we're having this massive recruitment and retention crisis with teachers and recruiting teachers. And the government can say, yeah, we're going to get 6,500 new teachers. Where are you going to get them from? So it's like just cannon fodder. We're just going to get a load of graduates and we're going to train them, and then they're going to become the teachers, and then they're going to burn out in 5 years' time, and then we're going to have to do it all over again. It's this vicious cycle. This is why we need to look at a whole culture and system transformation approach. I know I'm just saying this like it's easy to do, and I appreciate it. It's not easy to do, especially when there's so much other change and constant demand being made upon you, but everything has a knock-on effect to each other. And if you can actually change the culture and actually through the process of change develop well-being, it's actually going to reduce the impact of poor mental health, because mental health and mental illness are on two separate spectrums. So what we're doing is increasing the strategies for health, which then reduce the strategies for illness, which are on this other spectrum. This is the Keys dual mental health model. So there's a common misconception that if we remove the mental health problems, we'll be mentally healthy. No, if you remove the mental health problems, you just won't have mental health problems anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be mentally healthy and have good well-being. So what we want to be doing is intentionally increasing strategies for well-being. And I don't want you thinking, oh, she just made all this up off the top of her head. Like, I used to teach a master's degree British Psychological Society accredited module at the Loughborough University for occupational psychologists in workplace wellbeing. So that was my specialist area, is workplace wellbeing. So I do know that it's a multifaceted, multi-pronged approach to improving the workforce mental health in the education workforce, and that's why I created my staff wellbeing toolkit, which is a whole toolkit of evidence-based approaches to prevention and improving staff mental health and well-being and reducing staff stress. So please check that out. You can have a look on the page below if you're interested in that. And I have a free managing strategies for teacher stress webinar on my website if you want to find out more about supporting teacher stress. A lot of this is people just don't know this stuff. They've just got misconceptions, or they think that they do know some stuff and they think it's a one-size-fits-all approach. What we know about stress management and supporting mental health and well-being is it's unique to each individual, and what we have to be doing is kind of asking them through coaching questions, what helps you and what do you need, but then within the system that they operate within the culture that they're in, that enables them to feel safe and flourish and feel accepted and feel able to ask for help. So for World Mental Health Day, I kind of went on a massive tangent, but I want to explain the context of what we're dealing with. For World Mental Health Day, what can you do on the actual day of World Mental Health Day? I have another video that goes into that in a lot of depth. The first thing to say is, if you're going to just do a World Mental Health Day as a tokenistic exercise to tick a box, don't bother. You're just going to open a can of worms and make things worse for yourselves. If you are going to use World Mental Health Day as an opportunity to really take this seriously and say to your staff, this really is something we want to improve. This means something to us. We want to hear from you. What is making you feel stressed and like lowering your well-being at school, and we will take on board your feedback and we will change it, and then we will come back to you and tell you what's going to change and how you guys can get involved. Then that is going to be a much more valuable use, but you have to be ready for that, and you have to be ready to hear some stuff that you don't maybe want to hear, and you have to be ready to share some things that you feel frightened to say. So often school leaders will say, tell me how to improve stuff, I want to hear, but the school staff have got this fear of sticking their head above the parapet or saying something that they don't want to upset the head teacher, or they know they're trying their best and everyone's trying their best and they don't want to be critical, so they don't say. So it just goes round and round in circles, but then everyone's like back chatting in the staff room and moaning about stuff, but then the head teacher's like, tell me what's wrong, and they're like, oh no, nothing's wrong, it's fine. So it's like a vicious cycle. So what we need to do is create a culture that says it's okay to have these challenging conversations. It's okay to bring this to the forefront for us to actually address it, because if we don't leverage that change and use this tension as an opportunity to really create change, it's just going to carry on the way it is, and it's just going to keep on going, and it's going to have this knock-on effect to all the other issues that we're seeing with kids in schools at the moment: behavior issues, attendance issues, school avoidance, chronic levels of children's mental health problems. 3 kids get referred to CAMHS every minute. I've been talking for 20 minutes. That means 60 kids have got referred to CAMHS it's just like mind-blowing, and all we're trying to do is pass the buck all the time. The services are just not capable of meeting that demand, which then pushes it back into schools, which then pushes it back onto staff mental health problems. Can you see how this is a vicious cycle? Something's got to stop, something's got to change. So how do we change it? We ask those scary questions. We face up to the issue. We look at ourselves and we say, what is it that we actually change when we pick one thing, and we change that one thing? And it could be cultures of trust. It could be feeling listened to. It could be empathy or compassion or resilience, or whatever the thing is that you want to focus on. But if you have to do it through a systematic approach across the whole school culture. And I've got like other videos about like a whole school culture and what does that look like and what are the bits that you need to change. So, but everything has a knock-on effect to everything else. And if we're just looking at individuals and saying, you are not you haven't got any strategies to cope, you're not mentally healthy enough to fit in this organisation, you're actually not changing the situation that they exist within and to enable them to flourish and grow. You're gaslighting them. You're a contributing factor to their poor mental health. So what we really need to do is change the system that people are in and help individuals develop the resources within themselves to be able to navigate and negotiate with that system, to access stress management strategies, resources for positive mental health, take ownership and responsibility for their own well-being with the support of the organisational system that they're in. This is not a quick thing to fix. This is not a simple, just do a gratitude jar and you'll have good well-being. Yeah, you can do that. That's one tiny little intervention. If that works for you and it helps you, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. Do something else. Go to the gym, lift weights, run, whatever. Doesn't matter. Everyone's got to find their own ways of improving their own mental health and well-being and create a space within the school setting on World Mental Health Day to have those conversations, to make it okay to say, well, this is what helps me improve my well-being, what helps you. What doesn't work is being prescriptive, being tokenistic, ticking a box, not changing things, not listening to people, just brushing over it. Just don't bother. If you're going to do that, just don't bother. It's just going to make things worse. So kind of a controversial video for World Mental Health Day. To summarise, there are many things that you can do to improve staff mental health, but they are multifaceted and complex. They interrelate to each other. They are just not one thing. This is a complicated thing. This isn't like a one-size-fits-all approach or just one skill that's a silver bullet. Everyone looks for a silver bullet. Mindfulness, CBT, yoga at lunchtime. They're all just parts of the bigger picture. They're parts of the jigsaw, and they don't work for everyone. But things like the job demands resources model is an evidence-based model that you could talk through on World Mental Health Day and say, what are the demands that we have that are work-related and non-work related that are impacting your mental health and well-being and levels of stress? What are the resources that you have within yourself, that we have within our school and that we have outside of work that are helping us maintain and manage that? How can we do more of that? And how can we reduce the demands? And if you do that, and then make an action plan to put that in place, that is the most effective use of World Mental Health Day. If you want me to come and do an inset day, I can come and do an inset day. But if you don't take what I say and implement it strategically into your school improvement plans over a year or 2 years or 3 years, it's going to be a waste of time and money. So some radical truth bombs for you today in today's video. I know it's probably not what you want. You probably just want me to say, just do this and that improve mental health. But that's not me being honest or truthful. And it's not going to work. So why would you do something that's not going to work? Because you're just going to make it worse. So if you're interested and learning more about stress, staff wellbeing, mental health strategies, whole school approach, check out my website. Check out the links below on the video. There's lots of free courses, free CPD workshops, and some free wellbeing resources for young people if you want to do sharing some strategies for your students. Again, you can share strategies. If you haven't got the culture to facilitate the strategies to flourish, again, is it really an effective use of time or energy? So I'll see you again soon for another video on something related to young people's mental health and wellbeing. So thanks for your listening. Bye.